So this is going to be a pretty quick video. I was planning on figuring out how to do the installation of the Runcam Nano 2 on the Tinyhawk and Tinyhawk S, and then make a video of it. During the process of figuring out how to do it, I basically did it. It's incredibly simple, so we're just going to make this a quick video, and then I want to talk to you during the flight footage about my thoughts on COPPA and how it's going to affect those of us that make RC videos. So this is really straightforward modification. All you're going to do is you're going to remove these 4 screws in the bottom, and that's going to take this bottom plate off to the side. You can't fully remove it because this connector goes through here and was soldered afterwards, so just kind of swing it off to the side. That will also free the flight controller, and then you'll want to pull these 4 motor connectors off the flight controller. I found using a pair of pliers like this, just grabbing the edges of the connectors, made removal and especially reinstallation much easier. Once that's off, all you need to do is remove the stock camera and then cut the wire harness off the end of it, because you're going to want to solder that onto the Runcam Nano 2. Once you've done that, you'll take the Runcam Nano 2, remove the lens, it just unscrews off the front, feed it in up through the bottom, and then you'll want to kind of mark where you want to drill a couple of screw holes here. So these screw holes for me ended up, we're going to say, let's measure this real quick, approximately 4¼ millimeters from the front, and then it's hard to tell where a reference from the top, but I'll kind of go straight up the line here and line it up at the top. Looks like about 10.4 millimeters straight down here from the top. It'll be pretty forgiving. And then I used a 1.5 millimeter drill bit, and I just drilled a hole on this side, drilled a hole on this side, used the short screws to put the camera in, and then you'll solder the wires for the camera onto the connector that you took off of the old camera. Use a little heat shrink, plug it back in, plug your flight controller back in, 4 screws in, and put your lens on, and you're done. So this is very straightforward. I think it was less than 10 minutes to do this modification, and for me it makes a huge difference. I hate the original camera. I don't think it's a good camera. I went ahead and went with the 1.8 millimeter lens on this to get the wider field of view. I usually go with the 2.1 millimeter, and I like the wider field of view, especially on a little whoop like this. With this, the way it is, you do get some angle adjustment. You can see here, not a ton, but to me it's enough. I've also got both my RX and VTX antennas poking out the top here. It works better for me. So that's pretty much it as far as the modification is concerned. Let's go ahead and get some flight footage. Before I do, I wanted to let you know, coming up very soon, I've got this old diatone. Well, it's not old, but I guess in the hobby it feels old, that I'm going to be doing a modification with a camera. I've got this Mobius Mini 2, Mobius something, Mini 2 that I've 3D printed a mount for. And I have a 5-inch quad I'm going to be doing a refresh on, and some new reviews coming. So if you're interested in that, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe, hit the bell to get notified. It really helps me out. The motivation to do these videos comes from y'all's subscriptions and your comments and your thumbs up, so I really appreciate that. All right, let's get some flight footage and talk about COPPA. Okay, so I'm not going to get into what COPPA is. If you don't already know, look it up. There's tons of information out there. What I want to briefly talk about is how it will affect those of us who make RC videos. I think that the initial reaction a lot of people had was one of two things. Either this isn't going to affect me, it's just a YouTube thing, or this is a government thing, it's going to affect all of us, we're all doomed, yada yada yada. I feel like the reality is going to be somewhere in the middle. The FTC recently released a blog post which kind of gave a little bit more clarity-ish on what they meant when they said that, what they mean when they talk about kid oriented content, content that's directed at kids. And in that blog post, they kind of clarify, saying that mixed content isn't what they're necessarily going after. They also said that they're not going to be just having a bot go through and start charging people $48,000. They may use automated systems initially, but they will have a human look to see whether or not the video is actually directed at children. We kind of live in a gray area because our hobby could be construed as directed toward kids. I mean, obviously, these are not kids' toys, especially not for 13 and under, for the most part. But someone looking at it from, as Jang said, 20 feet away, would look at it and say these are just toys. I think that in the long run, we'll probably be fine. Personally, my demographic, I have 0% under 18 at all, so I don't really think that's going to be an issue. It's just going to depend. You know, obviously the super safest thing to do is going to be to mark all of your videos as for children, and just, I don't know, stop making videos, because there's really no point if you do that. But personally, I'm going to take a wait-and-see attitude. This stuff doesn't go, quote-unquote, go into effect until January 1st. I think there's going to be a lot more clarification and maybe some modification between now and then. Finally, I want to talk about what YouTube has done to us. Essentially what happened was YouTube got caught selling children's information. Their solution to that, and I don't know if they worked with the FTC on this, I don't know if $170 million does that or not, but their solution to that was basically to put the onus of responsibility on us. So we don't track children's information, we don't track any information, we just make videos. We're not even in the know as to how the tracking works. But because it takes the responsibility off of YouTube, it takes the cost of making changes off of YouTube, they've pushed that onto us. It just shows once again that YouTube simply does not care about creators like us. Alright guys, well, I appreciate you listening to me rant there for a minute. I hope you enjoyed the flight and the quick mod video. More to come. We'll talk to you soon.